The summer of 2015 was one of the busiest in Times Square's modern history. Over 50 million tourists flocked to the crossroads of the world, drawn by Broadway shows, towering digital billboards, and the electric energy that never sleeps in America's most famous intersection. Among the endless stream of visitors taking selfies and marveling at the urban spectacle was Rebecca Chen, a 26-year-old software developer from Portland, Oregon, who had come to New York City to celebrate landing her dream job at a tech startup. She had no idea that her week-long celebration would turn into one of the most perplexing missing persons cases in New York Police Department history. Rebecca was the daughter of Taiwanese immigrants who had built a successful small business in Portland's vibrant Pearl District. Her parents, David and Linda Chen, had instilled in her a strong work ethic and an adventurous spirit that led her to excel in computer science at Oregon State University. After graduation, she had spent 3 years working for a local software company before being recruited by a prestigious artificial intelligence firm in San Francisco. The job offer came with a significant salary increase and the opportunity to work on cutting-edge projects that could revolutionize healthcare technology. To celebrate this major career milestone, Rebecca had decided to take a solo trip to New York City, something she had dreamed of doing since watching romantic comedies set in Manhattan during her college years. She was particularly excited about seeing Broadway shows, visiting world-class museums, and experiencing the city's legendary food scene. Her friends described her as organized and cautious, someone who always researched her destinations thoroughly and maintained regular contact with family and friends while traveling. Rebecca had booked a week-long stay at the Pod Hotel in Midtown Manhattan, specifically choosing a location within walking distance of Times Square and the Theater District. She had purchased tickets in advance for 3 Broadway shows, made reservations at several highly rated restaurants, and created a detailed itinerary that included visits to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, Central Park, and the High Line Elevated Park. On Saturday, July 18, 2015, Rebecca arrived at John F. Kennedy International Airport on an afternoon flight from Portland. Security cameras captured her retrieving her luggage and taking a taxi into Manhattan, appearing relaxed and excited about her vacation. She checked into the Pod Hotel around 6 in the evening and immediately called her parents to confirm her safe arrival. Her mother later told investigators that Rebecca sounded absolutely thrilled and was planning to walk around Times Square that evening. The first 3 days of Rebecca's trip went exactly according to plan. Hotel records showed she used her keycard regularly, returning each night between 11 p.m. and midnight after full days of sightseeing. She maintained her habit of calling her parents every evening and posting photos on social media that documented her adventures. Her Instagram account from those days showed her smiling at iconic New York landmarks, the Charging Bull on Wall Street, the steps of the Metropolitan Museum, and the bright lights of Times Square. On Tuesday evening, July 21st, Rebecca attended a performance of Hamilton at the Richard Rodgers Theater, a show she had been especially excited to see. She posted a photo of herself outside the theater before the show, wearing a simple black dress and the pearl earrings her grandmother had given her for graduation. The caption read, "Living my best life in NYC. Hamilton tonight. So grateful for this amazing opportunity." It was the last social media post she would ever make. Wednesday, July 22nd, started normally. Hotel security footage showed Rebecca leaving her room at 9:15 in the morning, dressed in jeans, a light blue blouse, and comfortable walking shoes. She carried her usual purse, a medium-sized black leather bag that contained her wallet, phone, hotel keycard, and a small digital camera. According to her detailed itinerary, she planned to spend the morning shopping in Soho, have lunch at a recommended restaurant in Little Italy, and then return to Times Square for some afternoon people-watching. Se você gosta de mistérios reais como este, se inscreva no canal e ative o sininho para não perder nenhum caso. Rebecca was captured on multiple security cameras throughout the morning as she followed her planned route. Footage from a boutique in Soho showed her making a purchase around 10:30 a.m., a vintage band t-shirt that the store clerk remembered selling to a friendly Asian woman who was excited about finding something unique for her friends back home. She appeared relaxed and happy, taking her time to browse and asking questions about the neighborhood's history. Around noon, Rebecca was seen at Luna Restaurant in Little Italy, where she had lunch alone while reading a guidebook about New York's architecture. The server, Maria Gonzalez, specifically remembered her because she had asked detailed questions about the restaurant's history and had tipped generously while commenting on how much she loved the city. She seemed like such a sweet girl, Gonzalez later told police. Very polite, very curious about everything. She said she was from Oregon and had never seen buildings so old and beautiful. After lunch, security cameras tracked Rebecca as she took the subway from Little Italy back toward Times Square. The Metropolitan Transportation Authority's extensive camera network captured her boarding the N train at Canal Street at approximately 1:45 p.m. She appeared to be in good spirits, checking her phone and looking at the subway map as the train traveled uptown through Manhattan. The last confirmed sighting of Rebecca Chen was at 2:07 p.m. on July 22, 2015, captured by a security camera at the Times Square 42nd Street subway station. The footage showed her exiting the N train and walking toward the main corridor that leads to the street-level exits. She was moving with purpose, not appearing distressed or confused, and was alone in the frame. After that moment, Rebecca Chen vanished completely, as if she had been swallowed by the bustling underground maze of one of the world's busiest transportation hubs. When Rebecca failed to call her parents that evening, they initially weren't concerned. She had mentioned that she might go to a late dinner or catch a show, and cell phone service in parts of Manhattan could be unreliable. But when she didn't answer her phone Thursday morning and failed to check out of her hotel as scheduled, David Chen called the Pod Hotel to inquire about his daughter. The hotel staff confirmed that Rebecca had not returned to her room Wednesday night. Her belongings remained undisturbed in her room, including her laptop, passport, extra clothes, and the shopping purchases she had made earlier in the week. Most concerning was that her phone charger was still plugged into the wall outlet. Rebecca was known to be meticulous about keeping her devices charged and would never have left without it intentionally. David Chen immediately contacted the New York Police Department to report his daughter missing. Detective Maria Santos of the Midtown North Precinct was assigned to the case and quickly recognized its serious nature. A responsible young woman with no history of erratic behavior doesn't simply vanish in broad daylight from one of the most surveilled locations in the world without something going very wrong. The initial investigation focused on retracing Rebecca's steps through Manhattan's extensive security camera network. NYPD analysts spent hundreds of hours reviewing footage from dozens of cameras along her route, confirming her movements up until that final sighting in the Times Square subway station. What puzzled investigators was the complete absence of any footage showing her leaving the station or moving to any other area of the massive underground complex. Detective Santos coordinated with MTA police to conduct a comprehensive search of the entire station complex. Teams of officers examined every public area, storage room, and utility space within the massive underground facility. They interviewed hundreds of MTA employees, station vendors, and anyone who worked in or around the station regularly. The search expanded to include abandoned tunnel sections and areas under construction, but no trace of Rebecca was found. The investigation revealed no red flags in Rebecca's background that might suggest voluntary disappearance. Her bank account showed no unusual activity after her disappearance, and her phone remained inactive. Friends and family universally described her as stable, happy, and excited about her new job opportunity. There was no evidence of romantic relationships that might have led to her traveling with someone unexpectedly. Rebecca's case attracted significant media attention, partly because of the mystery surrounding how someone could vanish from such a heavily monitored location. The story appeared on local and national news programs, with security footage of Rebecca's final moments played repeatedly on television. The NYPD released her photo and detailed information about her appearance, asking anyone who might have seen her to come forward. Tips poured in from across the city and beyond. Dozens of people claimed to have seen Rebecca in various locations throughout Manhattan and the other boroughs. Each sighting was investigated thoroughly, but none proved to be credible. Some witnesses had confused her with other young Asian women, while others provided information that didn't match the timeline or other known facts about her disappearance. As weeks turned into months, the active investigation gradually scaled back. Rebecca's parents hired private investigators and worked with missing persons advocacy groups to keep her story in the public eye. David and Linda Chen made multiple trips to New York, walking the streets of Manhattan and posting flyers with their daughter's photograph. They offered a substantial reward for information and maintained a dedicated website with updates about the case. Years passed with no breakthrough. 2016, 2017, 2018. Each year brought renewed media attention on the anniversary of Rebecca's disappearance, but no new leads emerged. The Chen family's hope gradually gave way to acceptance that they might never learn what happened to their daughter, though they never stopped believing that someone, somewhere, knew the truth. In 2020, The COVID-19 pandemic dramatically reduced foot traffic in Times Square and throughout the subway system. During this period, the MTA undertook extensive maintenance and cleaning projects in stations throughout the system, accessing areas that were typically too crowded to work on during normal operations. It was during one of these pandemic-era maintenance projects that the first clue to Rebecca Chen's fate would finally emerge. In early 2023, 8 years after her disappearance, MTA maintenance crews were conducting routine inspections of seldom-used service tunnels beneath the Times Square station complex. The tunnels, originally built in the early 20th century, connected various parts of the station and provided access for utility lines and emergency systems. The maintenance crew was led by James Rodriguez, a 54-year-old veteran MTA employee who had worked in the subway system for over 30 years. Rodriguez was known among his colleagues for his thoroughness and his encyclopedic knowledge of the underground infrastructure. On the morning of March 15, 2023, Rodriguez and his crew were inspecting a narrow service tunnel when he noticed something unusual wedged behind a large water pipe. Closer inspection revealed what appeared to be a piece of fabric caught on the pipe's mounting bracket. Rodriguez carefully extracted the material and immediately recognized it as part of a woman's blouse, light blue fabric that matched perfectly the description of what Rebecca Chen had been wearing on the day she disappeared. The fabric was partially deteriorated from years of exposure to moisture and tunnel conditions, but enough remained to be clearly identifiable. Rodriguez immediately stopped work and contacted his supervisor, who notified MTA police. Within hours, the service tunnel became a crime scene as detectives and forensic specialists descended into the underground space. A comprehensive forensic examination revealed additional evidence that had remained hidden for 8 years. Small personal items belonging to Rebecca were found scattered throughout the narrow space: a broken pearl earring that matched the pair she had been wearing, fragments of her black leather purse, and most conclusively, her smartphone, which had been damaged but still contained data that could be recovered by forensic specialists. The location and condition of these items told a horrifying story. The service tunnel was not accessible to the general public and could only be entered through locked maintenance doors that required special keys. The positioning of Rebecca's belongings suggested she had been forcibly brought into the tunnel, where she had been attacked and killed. The remote location and restricted access meant that her body and evidence could remain hidden indefinitely. The discovery immediately transformed Rebecca's case from a missing persons investigation into a homicide inquiry. The NYPD's Major Case Squad took over the investigation, and FBI specialists joined the effort due to the potential involvement of MTA employees who would have had access to the restricted areas. Every current and former MTA worker who had access to the service tunnel area became a potential suspect. The investigation focused on individuals with intimate knowledge of the tunnel system and access to restricted areas. One name that repeatedly surfaced was Carlos Mendez, a 41-year-old former MTA maintenance worker who had been employed at the Times Square station during the summer of 2015. Mendez had been terminated from his position in September 2015 for excessive absences and inappropriate conduct, just 2 months after Rebecca's disappearance. Colleagues described Mendez as a loner who often worked alone in remote areas of the station. Several colleagues reported that he had shown disturbing behavior around young women, including following female passengers and making inappropriate comments. His supervisor had noted concerns about his conduct, and he possessed keys and access codes for maintenance areas throughout the station complex, including the exact area where Rebecca's belongings were found. The FBI launched a nationwide manhunt for Mendez, eventually locating him living under an assumed name in Las Vegas, Nevada. When federal agents attempted to arrest him, he initially cooperated but became agitated when questioned about his time working for the MTA. During the arrest, investigators discovered disturbing items in his apartment, including photographs of young women taken without their knowledge and detailed maps of subway systems in various cities. During interrogation, Mendez gradually revealed details of what had happened 8 years earlier. He had been monitoring Rebecca from the time she arrived at the station and had followed her through the corridors. He approached her under the pretense of offering help with directions, but when Rebecca politely declined and attempted to leave, Mendez became angry and forced her into the service tunnel using his MTA keys. According to his confession, Mendez sexually assaulted and murdered Rebecca in the remote tunnel, then used his knowledge of the underground infrastructure to dispose of her body in an abandoned section that he believed would never be discovered. His intimate knowledge of the tunnel system and access to maintenance equipment allowed him to conceal the crime for 8 years. The confession led investigators to a section of abandoned tunnel infrastructure where forensic specialists discovered Rebecca's remains, along with additional evidence that confirmed Mendez's account. The discovery brought both closure and renewed anguish to David and Linda Chen, who had spent 8 years not knowing what had happened to their daughter. Carlos Mendez was charged with first-degree murder, kidnapping, and sexual assault in New York State Court. His trial became a high-profile case that highlighted security concerns in public transportation systems and the importance of thorough background checks for employees with access to restricted areas. During the trial, additional evidence emerged linking Mendez to other suspicious incidents involving young women in the subway system. Mendez was ultimately convicted on all charges and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The verdict provided some measure of justice for Rebecca's family, but also raised troubling questions about how such a crime could go undetected for so long in one of the world's most surveilled locations. The case prompted significant changes in MTA security protocols and employee screening procedures. Enhanced background checks were implemented for all workers with access to restricted areas, and new surveillance systems were installed in previously unmonitored service areas. Regular welfare checks and improved communication systems were established to ensure employee compliance with safety and conduct standards. Rebecca Chen was finally laid to rest in Portland, Oregon, surrounded by family and friends who had never stopped hoping for her return. Her parents established a foundation in her memory, focused on improving safety for travelers and supporting families of missing persons. The foundation works with law enforcement agencies and transportation authorities to develop better protective measures for vulnerable individuals in public spaces. James Rodriguez, the MTA worker who discovered the crucial evidence, was commended for his diligence and thoroughness. His discovery not only solved Rebecca's case but also removed a dangerous predator from society who might have claimed additional victims. The Times Square station today operates with enhanced security protocols that were directly influenced by Rebecca's case. The case prompted comprehensive reviews of personnel practices across public transportation systems nationwide. The Chen protocols became standard guidelines for employee screening and monitoring in transit systems across major American cities. These protocols required extensive psychological evaluations for employees with access to restricted areas, mandatory annual reviews of personnel with security clearances, and immediate reporting systems for any inappropriate behavior toward passengers. The psychological impact of Rebecca's case extended far beyond her immediate family. Detective Maria Santos, who had led the initial investigation, struggled with the knowledge that the solution to the case had been literally beneath her feet for 8 years. Despite the thorough investigation conducted in 2015, the restricted nature of the service tunnel area meant that crucial evidence remained undiscovered for nearly a decade. Santos underwent counseling to deal with the psychological impact and eventually became a specialist in cold case investigations, applying lessons learned from Rebecca's case to help solve other long-dormant mysteries. The investigation into Carlos Mendez's background revealed a disturbing pattern of escalating behavior that had been overlooked by multiple employers over the years. FBI behavioral analysts who studied his history discovered that he had been exhibiting warning signs of predatory behavior for decades before Rebecca's murder. Employment records from various cities showed a consistent pattern of inappropriate interactions with female coworkers and customers, complaints that were often dismissed as personality conflicts rather than recognized as potential indicators of dangerous behavior. Dr. Sarah Williams, a criminal psychologist who consulted on the case, noted that Mendez represented a particularly dangerous type of predator who exploited positions of institutional trust to commit crimes. Individuals like Mendez understand how to manipulate the psychological advantage that comes with wearing a uniform or representing an official organization, she explained to investigators. Victims often comply with requests from uniformed employees or authority figures, even when those requests seem unusual or inappropriate. This psychological manipulation is a key component of how such crimes are successfully committed in public spaces. The forensic analysis of Rebecca's smartphone, recovered from the service tunnel after 8 years of exposure to harsh underground conditions, required cutting-edge techniques that pushed the boundaries of digital forensics. FBI specialists worked for months to extract data from the severely damaged device, ultimately recovering crucial information that helped confirm the timeline of events and provided additional evidence of Mendez's guilt. The innovative techniques developed during this process were later incorporated into standard forensic protocols. and have been used to solve numerous other cold cases involving damaged electronic devices. James Rodriguez's discovery of the initial evidence was recognized not just for solving Rebecca's case, but for demonstrating the importance of thorough and conscientious work by public employees. The MTA established the Rodriguez Excellence Award for employees who go above and beyond their regular duties to ensure public safety and integrity. Rodriguez himself became a trainer for new MTA employees, teaching them not just technical skills, but also the importance of remaining alert to unusual circumstances that might indicate criminal activity or safety hazards. The service tunnel where Rebecca's belongings were found was permanently sealed after the investigation concluded, but not before extensive documentation and analysis by forensic experts, structural engineers, and security specialists. The MTA installed memorial plaques at both ends of the sealed section, honoring Rebecca's memory and serving as permanent reminders to employees about the importance of vigilance and integrity in their work. These memorials are not visible to the general public, but serve as important daily reminders for workers who access the restricted areas of the station complex. Mental health support became another crucial aspect of addressing the case's widespread psychological aftermath. The trauma experienced by Rebecca's family, the investigators who worked tirelessly on the case for 8 years, MTA employees who learned about the crime, and even members of the broader Asian American community required professional attention and coordinated support services. The Chen Foundation partnered with established mental health organizations to develop specialized counseling services for families of missing persons and first responders who work on particularly difficult and emotionally challenging cases. The technological innovations spurred by Rebecca's case extended beyond digital forensics to include advances in surveillance technology and public safety monitoring systems. The complex challenge of monitoring the vast underground infrastructure of the Times Square station led to the development of new sensor technologies, automated alert systems, and predictive analytics that could identify unusual patterns of behavior or access to restricted areas. These innovations were later adopted by transportation systems, universities, hospitals, and other institutions with complex physical infrastructure and security needs. Educational institutions across the country began incorporating Rebecca's case into their criminal justice, public safety, and emergency management curricula. Police academies use the case as an example of the challenges and opportunities in modern missing persons investigations, emphasizing the importance of interagency cooperation, technological resources, and persistent follow-up on cold cases. Security training programs highlighted the case as a demonstration of how internal threats can be more dangerous than external ones, and how institutional trust can be exploited by predators operating within organizations. The international implications of Rebecca's case extended far beyond the United States, as transportation authorities in major cities worldwide studied the security protocols and investigative techniques developed in response to her murder. The case became a reference point for discussions about tourist safety in urban environments, the responsibilities of transportation authorities to protect vulnerable travelers, and the need for comprehensive background screening of employees with access to sensitive areas. David Chen's advocacy work following his daughter's case led to his appointment to several federal advisory committees focused on transportation security and missing persons investigations. His unique perspective as both a successful businessman and the father of a murder victim made him an effective advocate for policy changes that balanced practical security needs with respect for civil liberties and due process. He testified before Congress multiple times about the need for enhanced security measures in public transportation systems and worked closely with federal agencies to develop improved protocols for investigating disappearances in complex urban environments. Linda Chen focused her efforts on supporting other families of missing persons, particularly those from immigrant communities who might face language barriers, cultural obstacles, or distrust when dealing with law enforcement agencies. She established support groups that met regularly in multiple languages, translated safety materials and legal resources into dozens of languages, and worked with community organizations to ensure that non-English-speaking tourists and residents had access to crucial safety information and knew how to report suspicious activity or seek help in emergency situations. The Rebecca Chen Foundation grew beyond its initial focus on transportation safety to become a comprehensive resource for missing persons families nationwide. The foundation provides financial assistance for private investigators and specialized search teams, offers translation services for non-English-speaking families, maintains a database of missing persons cases that helps identify patterns and connections between different incidents, and funds research into improved investigation techniques and technologies that can help solve missing persons cases more quickly and effectively. One of the Foundation's most successful initiatives was the development of a smartphone application called Safe Travel NYC that allows tourists and residents to share their location and planned itinerary with designated emergency contacts. The app sends automatic alerts if users don't check in at scheduled times, provides direct links to emergency services and police reporting systems, and includes safety tips and warnings about current security concerns in different areas of the city. Since its launch, the app has been credited with helping locate several missing tourists, preventing potential crimes, and providing crucial evidence in criminal investigations. The case also had profound implications for how law enforcement agencies approach missing persons investigations in complex urban environments. The 8-year gap between Rebecca's disappearance and the discovery of evidence highlighted the challenges of searching massive, multi-level infrastructure systems and the importance of maintaining active investigations, even when initial efforts prove unsuccessful. New protocols were developed for systematically searching transportation hubs, maintaining detailed records of all areas examined, and regularly revisiting cases with new technologies and perspectives. Advanced security measures implemented throughout the New York subway system after Rebecca's case included motion sensors and automated monitoring systems in previously unobserved service areas. Enhanced key card tracking systems that record and analyze every access to restricted zones. Improved communication systems that allow workers to report suspicious activity immediately and regular. Psychological evaluations for employees with security clearances. These measures significantly increased the operational costs of maintaining the subway system, but were deemed essential investments in public safety and crime prevention. The trial of Carlos Mendez brought additional revelations about systemic security gaps that had existed throughout the transportation network for decades. Expert witnesses testified about the inherent challenges of monitoring vast underground infrastructure systems, the vulnerabilities created by the system's historical complexity, and the layering of new technology onto old infrastructure, and the difficulties of balancing public access with security needs. The comprehensive testimony led to specific recommendations for technological solutions, policy changes, and procedural improvements that were implemented not just in New York, but in transportation systems nationwide. Interagency cooperation protocols developed in response to Rebecca's case became models for handling complex missing persons investigations that crossed jurisdictional boundaries. The initial investigation had involved the NYPD, MTA Police, FBI, and multiple other agencies, but communication gaps and unclear jurisdictional responsibilities had sometimes slowed progress and created inefficiencies. New frameworks were established to ensure seamless information sharing, coordinated command structures, and clear protocols for resource allocation when individuals disappear in complex urban environments that involve multiple transportation systems, law enforcement agencies, and governmental jurisdictions. The annual memorial service for Rebecca, held each July 22nd in a small park near Times Square, has evolved into an important gathering point for missing persons' families, safety advocates, law enforcement professionals, and community members who want to honor her memory while working to prevent similar tragedies. The service serves multiple interconnected purposes, providing a forum for families to share their experiences and support each other, raising public awareness about personal safety and the ongoing work needed to protect vulnerable individuals, and maintaining pressure on institutions and government agencies to continue improving their safety protocols and investigative capabilities. Rebecca's story continues to be told in criminal justice education programs, missing persons advocacy training, public safety workshops, and community awareness campaigns throughout the United States and internationally. Her case serves as both a cautionary tale about the unexpected dangers that can exist in seemingly safe public spaces and an inspiring example of how family determination, systematic investigation, community support, and technological innovation can eventually bring justice and meaningful change, even in the most challenging and apparently hopeless circumstances. The technological innovations and investigative techniques developed during the lengthy investigation of Rebecca's case have been successfully applied to numerous other missing persons cases, both in New York and in cities across the country. Digital forensics methods pioneered by FBI specialists working on her case have helped solve dozens of cold cases and provided long-awaited closure to families who had waited years or even decades for answers about their missing loved ones. The systematic approach to searching complex infrastructure systems has been adopted by law enforcement agencies nationwide and has led to the discovery of evidence in several other high-profile cases. Today, visitors to Times Square move through the bustling intersection and underground transportation hub, largely unaware of the tragedy that unfolded beneath their feet 8 years ago. But Rebecca Chen's story remains an important reminder that behind the bright lights, tourist attractions, and constant activity of one of the world's most famous locations, real people with real dreams and aspirations can become victims of those who prey on the innocent and exploit positions of trust to commit horrible crimes. Her memory serves as both a warning about the need for constant vigilance and an inspiration to never stop fighting for justice, demonstrating that persistence, technological innovation, systematic investigation, and community support can eventually bring truth to light and meaningful change, even in the most challenging and seemingly impossible circumstances. The legacy of Rebecca Chen extends far beyond the tragic circumstances of her death to represent the power of determination, the importance of thorough investigation, and the potential for positive transformation that can emerge from even the most heartbreaking situations.